Hi everybody, welcome back to Spurverse, my scale model universe, people of Earth. Welcome to part 4, yes, part 4 of Build the Polar Lights 1350 Refit. Now, not version A, this is from the motion picture. And here we go. I'm just, it's the morning here in California, so I'm having my tea. So excuse me for that, but I need my tea. Okay, a lot's going on and a lot to update you on, but I wanted to start by talking about the secondary hull because one of the biggest fears that I had was fit issues with the pylons to the secondary hull. And I know by looking at a lot of previous videos that there are major problems here. Now, I will say to you this. I have 3 versions of this kit, 3 of them. Don't judge me. I'm teasing. I have 3. So if I have a problem, and I've had a few, I'm substituting parts so that I can make my life a little easier. And then I'll end up with 2 kits that are worthless. No, that's not true. I interestingly enough found out on eBay that people are selling portions of these kits. It's fascinating. Anyway. Okay, so what I was under the impression was going to happen was I was going to have some fit issues here, okay? And so what I've done is I have split the pylons up, obviously, and I've attempted to attach them to the various components because my thinking was that this is how I'm going to orient this to close it up. Like this. So that's how I was going to close it up, and I was concerned that that might not be the best way to go, but I'm thoroughly convinced it is, at least for this kit. Now, what I had learned from various other videos is that these pylon connections are a big culprit. They're a big problem. Now, I had zero problem with the parts that attach to the top of the secondary hull. Zero problem. On the bottom of the secondary hull is where it all started to get a little pear-shaped. Now, on the A side, I'm calling this the A side, and on the B side, I have had to do just a little trimmage on these pegs. Now, some people have cut them way down. All I had to do was just take a saw, and if you don't have this saw in your kit, I recommend it. There it is. That's where you can get it. And what I did was I carefully just started trimming away at the inside of the top part of this tooth. And what that has essentially allowed me to do is get these clipping on here with a nice like snap. You don't want it so loose that it just doesn't hold. You want a little crisp snap. And I've got a really nice line here. And on the other side, I noticed that this side really here was the worst of them all. I had to cut that way back. Otherwise, it was never going to line up and orient itself as it does now. And it does now. So I know when they engineered this, that was always their intention. Now, don't be put off by the black shading here that gives the impression that this isn't flush. It is completely flush. It's just that the edge of the pylon here is covered in black paint, and it's giving the illusion on camera that it's got a gap, but it does not. Okay? Okay, so now, and I have test fitted this, and I don't want to do it again, and I'm not going to do it on camera, so I apologize, because I don't want to weaken my pins. I know that that can be an issue, but this it sits on here beautifully. And I've snapped it together, and I've got no big issues. What I do have, and I'll just talk about them here, even with these snapped together correctly, I'm going to have to put quite a bit of pressure on this join here to get that closed up, and I will do that. I'll do that slowly, one pylon at a time. I'm not going to try and glue the whole thing in one fell swoop. I'm going to do it piece by piece. But that is going to be an issue. Now, they do come together quite nicely, but there's going to be a gap, and I am going to have to putty that. But it's not terrible. And I think once these are all clipped together and lined up, I'll be fine. Same at this end. It wants to pull apart. Now, interestingly enough, when I lift this up, one of the things that you do notice is that right here, oh, of course you can't see it, it's not on camera yet, idiot. Okay. Right here, curiously, one of the things you might have to do to help yourself is, and I'll use this for a pointer, is this piece of plastic here, even though it's flush with the side of the ship here, it's actually, on some kits, this could be a little proud. This piece here could be a little proud. So you may have to do, and I can see here actually, it could potentially be a bit of a culprit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grind just here, just a little bit. Grind that on both sides. Because what that's going to allow you to do is when these two pieces come together here and on both sides, because it's not sitting below this seam, it's pushing it out. You see, this is not flush. I can even put see, it's not flush. And because that's not flush, that's going to force this apart. Now you can force this seam together, but why bother? When all you have to do is just take and grind this down just a little bit and take a lot of the stress off of this. Now, you're not going to get a perfect seam. You're not going to get a perfect seam, but what you are going to get is less stress on that part of it when you try to glue it together. You're not going to have something that's going to want to force itself apart. So just a little grinding is going to make all the difference. And so that will take care of this section. And then all I have to do, once I've done that, is get all of my lighting in here and get my shuttle bay, Arboretum, and my windows in. Not my portholes. All the other portholes, they're all going to be done last because, remember, I've got the laser cut pieces that will all pop in here. I'm not going to do it right now. I'm not going to do it until I'm ready for final paint, because why bother? You know, why get paint on them and cause grief for myself? But so that is that. So that will mean that everything is in here and good to go. Up until this point, guys, I'm about 26, 27 hours in. Now, I'm not saying that because this is a race or a competition. I'm just trying to give you an idea of how much time I have put into this. And now, weekend modelers, obviously, it's going to take you a lot longer, and that's perfectly fine. All I care about is that you get it out and you do a little bit. You start. That's all I care about. I just want you to build something. And let me know that you did get it out and you are starting, because this hobby is one of the most therapeutic things on the planet, in my opinion. And if I couldn't build sprues, I don't know if my soul would be very, very happy. But anyway, okay, so I'm pretty convinced now that once I've got my 5-minute epoxy on here and these are set up, I should be good to go. Now, I'm not going to do that until I've pulled these pylons off and I've given them a prime, and I've also sort of sanded down this shell that I've sort of been experimenting with. This has got marble from Gold, the rattle can company, on it. I just wanted to see what it would do. Now, what I'm happy about is just like my Insignia White from Tamiya, this is a really hard paint. It's really hard. And that's a good thing for this kit if you're going to Aztec it. Because all those masks go on here and you've not painted this correctly, you could lift your paint when you put your masks down. And I think at that point, I would definitely go fetal in the corner and never come out. But anyway, so I've been experimenting with this. I've got lots of sanding to do, lots of prep to do, but I am happy with the engineering of it. And I feel confident now that I've got a plan to put this piece together. And once this is all complete and the wiring's in it and everything else is good to go, this section is one of my 3 sections, right? So I've got my saucer section, my secondary hole with pylon section, and of course my nacelles. Those are the 3 parts and we'll leave it that way while we're doing final paint and Aztecing. And we won't do the final assembly on anything until we've done that. Okay, so that is that. Wanted to report into you on that before we sort of move on to the next part of this build. The other thing I wanted to share with you is I have put the neck together. So here's the neck. I've glued it together. I've got a little bit of seam work to do, but for the most part, I'm pretty happy. And I won't know how much seam work I've got until I've actually got a coat of primer on this. I've got my photo etch in. I can get you closer. I got the photo etch in. There's 2 airlocks on both sides of the neck that you got to put in. I've got my photon torpedoes in, and everything is wired in and as neat as I can possibly get it. But this is all sort of ready to go. And I've left myself enough room for my saucer cables to drop down into here, and then you know, they'll sort of drop onto the neck at some point in the not too distant future. And then the only other thing I wanted to show you here is I actually took some clear resin, and I did not use the windows that came with this kit. Now the angle is obviously wrong on these. Because you can't see what I'm doing. The angle is going to be wrong. But I could not get those awful pieces of clear plastic to fit. You're not supplied them in the window kit that I got, the laser cut window kit. He doesn't supply those. And I think for good reason. It's like, I don't know how you cut them. There are 2 prongs. One is sort of a flat surface but a strange angle, and the other one is a sharp angle. And so I just said life's too short. And but these will work fine. I've just got I got a little bit of cleanup to do on them, but they'll be fine. And the rest of the portholes I will put in at a later date. But my neck is good to go, and I'm thrilled about that. The only other thing I wanted to share with you quickly before we move on to the next segment is this is part of the front of the ship. And as all of you who have this kit know or are familiar with this kit, is that your the front sensor array and deflector shield sit in here like this. Oh, here, let me get you closer. There, sits in like this, and I've got, and then on top of that, I have got there. Okay, well that just needs cleaning up a little bit, but I have got just a little bit of cleanup to do here, which I'll do in just a second here. But what I wanted to talk about was the fact that we are putting our rod in that large hole you see in right there. That is where, which is far more balanced. That's where our post is going to go, and all our electrics will run through there to the base. In the kit, if you are building this just plain out of the box, you're going to get in this piece, in the front of the, towards the front of the deflector, you have a hole at the bottom here. You have a hole, and what I have done, and that's where the post will go for you. But if you're not using that and you're sliding over to the larger post here as I am, you want to fill this in. So I just got myself a little epoxy sculpt, mixed that up, and I filled that in. That's rock hard now. I just need to sand that and form that, and that'll be good to go. I've just got a little cleanup to do here. I've got just a little bit of gook and paint that I'll clean out of these edges. And then this will actually be ready to attach to this as soon as I can. But I can't put this on until the top of this secondary hull is installed, because it actually it sits under it. But just wanted to show you that, because it's one of 1,000 details that you know you're dealing with as you put this together. But I have to tell you, I feel like we've made some strides forward. I'm pretty excited about it. Lots and lots to do, but I feel like I've made some strides forward, and I've also learned quite a bit as well. So that's fun. If there's anything else I need to talk to you about, I will later on in this segment. I'll show you the crystal where the impulse engines are at the front. I don't know what it's called. Is it the warp drive crystal? I did read what it was somewhere. I apologize. My name and nomenclature is not good, but I know one of my loyal subscribers will tune me in to what it actually is. However, I thought I was being super clever there, and I'll explain with my light blocking system, which failed me miserably. And I'll explain why when we get there, but I will show you that when we go back to the saucer. And we'll do that in this update, okay? So let us get some primer on my pylons, start to get some wiring in. We'll take a look at that, all of that in the next segment on this update. Okay, well, I'm glad you're here. So that I don't have to struggle through this alone, because it's this is interesting. This is one of those parts where the rubber hits the road, as they say. Okay. So I have some really awesome subscribers who did start to question this this Trek Modeler lighting bundle, and very fairly too, by the way, very fairly, because of the size of the wires and the bundles and how difficult it is to maneuver everything. And concerns about what was going to happen in terms of trying to put it all together. And I have to say, we are at that moment in time where things are starting to get a little wiggy. And I was just working on some test fits, and I thought to myself, you know what? I better share this with the team, because so you can see what I'm doing. Okay, so. Here we are with the secondary hull, and I've put in the board for the chase lights for the shuttle bay landing lights. That is in, and I've been test fitting my Arboretum, which is here. Now, with no Arboretum in, if I remove the Arboretum and set that down, okay, I have plenty of room to slide in the bay, and I've test fitted it several times, and it works really, it works very well. I have no issues. But when I sort of put the Arboretum in, and I then narrow down this, and so the Arboretum sits a little proud, and so it just the math doesn't work. You can't do it. You just can't do it. I've tried 10 ways from Sunday. You can't do it. Now, curiously, there is a way you can do it, and it involves removing this structural bar right here. It's got to come out. What do? If I remove this structural bar, am I going to have trouble with this flexing, or am I going to have enough structural integrity with this just sitting down on here? Because once this sits down on here, I may have to sort of reinforce this. So here's what I'm thinking here's what I'm thinking I have to do. And what's awesome about this is by the time you see this video, I will have already done it. So if there is a train wreck of any kind, it would obviously be either towards the end of this video or in update 5. Now you know why I talk about going fetal in the corner. It's because, at this point I'm well over 35 hours of construction and detail work, and not to mention the investment. So if I make a mistake at this point, and it all has to be trashed, then that's why you go fetal. However, other of my very capable, logical subscribers have said, it's just a model. Don't panic. It'll be fine. Those are the people I'm with. No, so here's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking that if I remove this, I've obviously got to put something back, which I can do before we close everything up. What I can do is I can cut this off, and that will allow me to sit the bay in, and then I can put something back. I can get some plastic tubing that actually sits over this. I can grind this down a little bit, and then I can put a reinforcing tube over it. As long as it's not proud of this little shelf that the roof of the secondary hull sits in. As long as it's not proud of that, it should be fine. And so that is what I'm tackling at the moment. Otherwise, everything else seems to be fine. I mean, interestingly enough, when he supplied, and he, meaning Trek Modeler, supplied me with this particular bundle, I noticed I got some pretty old tape here. I guess he was sort of just finishing up, but it's fine, and it works fine. Everything is fine. So I'm okay in that department. So that's what I have to do. I don't think I have a choice. I've thought about this, and I've thought about it, and I just don't see any way around it. I just don't know how else you could do this, and not get yourself in a world of hurt. Because when I sit my Arboretum in, and that's the other thing is it sits in here beautifully. And when you look through the windows, there's your Arboretum, and you know it looks great. There are no issues. There it is. You know, I'm looking through the window and I see my Arboretum, and it's going to look great lit up. It's in the correct position. It's where it should be. It can't be any lower. It just can't. You know, it can't be. It can't be any lower, because if it's any lower, then you're proud of the windows. So, although as I'm looking at it, I am noticing one curious thing, and that is that if I sit it sort of just below, let me get you closer. If I sit it so it's just kissing the top of that frame, which is where I think it needs to be, okay? Like there. When I look on the other side, it's just slightly above it. Not too much, but there's nothing holding it, there's nothing stopping it from going any lower. In fact, I think that's as low as you're going to get it. So I'm happy with that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to double check my bundle instructions just to make sure there's no other wires that have to be below the Arboretum. And then I'm going to do some surgery, and I'm going to remove this structural piece. And then I will figure out how to get everything in. And then once I've gotten everything in, then I'm going to put something back. That's the plan. If that changes, I will be right back to you. It's, for me, it's really interesting. There are aspects to model making that are really growth areas for me, and learning curves as well. And you make sort of mistakes as you go along. And then for me, the cathartic part of it is I just say to myself, you know, this won't be the last starship I build. But in building it, I have to tell you, it's been a lot of fun sort of just trying to feel like you're going to, you know where all the landmines are, you know, like Indiana Jones stepping gingerly across stones and making sure he doesn't step on the one that's going to fire a lethal poisonous dart at his head. I know that all sounds very dramatic, but sometimes I just like to give you the sort of the download of what's going through my head, you know, that sort of subtext forward, as it were. But anyway, Shuttle Bay is in, and it's really interesting because when you're working with these sort of pre-bundled wires, you've got to be really smart. You know, I was a little cavalier about the fact that, oh, it's all pre-wired. You just, you know, shove it around. No, there's a science to this. I mean, it's a little bit of a Rubik's Cube. So even though this is in, and I told you that I was going to remove this, I guess you'd call it a sort of a strengthening bar. These were two pieces that clicked together, so it all sort of held rigid. I am finding that because I did put 5-minute epoxy over everything, that I do have a pretty good bond on this. But I think you can see, if I lay this down now, it didn't fit. It just didn't fit. I can show you a side view of that. Let's see here. There we go. You can see that, you know, I can lay it back down in here, but I don't think there's a whole lot of point to it, other than the fact that you don't want this to squeeze this way, but there's no risk of that happening. Now, once we get the top of the shuttle bay on, there are a couple of huge sort of reality checks that I sort of have to have with myself. So this sits down on here nicely. Curiously, there's quite a bit of weight on this end, but not. It's all going to be right here on the post side, which is this post. So I think the bulk of the weight is going to be there. Now, in putting this together, what I've discovered is I have a problem. So here's my problem. My problem is that I've got a nice fit on one side, and then on the other side, right here, not so much. Not terrible, but it's quite a gap. It's quite a pronounced gap. You can't see that. Let me see if I can get that in the... I think I can if I put that there. So when I sort of put pressure down on this thing, everything lines up quite beautifully, and then I have this gap here. Now, let me tell you why I have this gap here, because I've done quite an analysis on this. So I think I'm correct. It is not, you would think, this wire here. It's not. It's actually because this clear part, I shouldn't have put it in. Now, if I remove it, which I'm seriously thinking about doing, then I've got nowhere for this tape here to go. But what it does mean is that I can install this fantail light for the top of the fantail, this piece here. That lights up that piece. So what it means is that I can actually lay that down, and I don't have this bump because it's all too high here. And when I do that, I think I can get a little bit of frosted plastic card, which I can lay down there and then put this tape on top of it. So this is not sitting so proud. And I think if the gods are with me, that should help nestle that down, and I should be fine. A couple of wackadoodle things with this harness, which is, it is an awful lot of wire. And one of my subscribers accurately suggested that that this is just, it's too much. It's too much. I mean, it is beautifully put together. Don't get me wrong. The Trek Modeler package, if you want to go for it, is a first-class package, and they are fantastic. I mean, if you have a problem, they get back to you right away. They service what they sell. I had a busted resistor that was my fault. Just reached out to them and they said, no problem, we'll send you a couple of pre-resisted lights. Now, I did it myself because I'm lucky enough to have the great Wayne Green just a WhatsApp away, and he was able to help me with what resistor to use, and I was back in business. But that is one of the problems. Now I'm gonna let's all have a giggle together. Because before we end this segment, so I'm gonna just turn this to camera here. Okay, so you can see this there. Okay, perfect. So now this is all of the guts that are now coming out the front, and that is just the beginning. I've got this piece here. Are you ready? Now, I'm going to show it to you. Here it is. It's this. This is the motherboard with your connections to everything, to your shuttle bay chase lights, which I've checked and they're working, and everything else on this model. It's the power that goes to your post here. And then everything else here are all your service plugs that you're going to plug everything into. Now, and here's the fun part. We would have you believe that it's going to sit in here like this, with this ribbon somehow behind it, and all of these plugs out in front of it like that. That's what it would have you believe. Now, I'll get it done, because if you actually watched my my time machine build, I had the same issue with getting a small Arduino board into the front console, which, you know, took a couple of tries. I thought my dear friend Lou over at Aztec Dummy had the right course of action, which was to cut it open, and then you could slip it in and then put it back and paste it. But I didn't want to have to worry about the seam. But he's a much better modeler than I'll ever be, so he was able to do it. And then what you've got to make sure is that when you put this bundle in, I'm not going to do it on this pole, because while this looks pretty solid, and it is pretty solid, it is quite a beast, and it can get a little wonky on you. It plugs in quite nicely, but it sometimes this, now it's all solid. There's nothing flimsy about it, but sometimes this plug right here, the join where you actually thread this to this union like this, which is, you know, really clever, because it allows you to work on the model and get it back on this stand. So here I am tightening it up, and I feel it tighten up quite nicely. It sits quite proud, but if you start turning it or messing with it, it does start to get a little wonky. So you do have to be careful. But other than that, I think I'm in pretty good shape. I'm happy with where I am. Like I said, I'm going to work on this little piece now. And then I think that should do it for this update, because otherwise it's just too much information. In segment 5, we're going to work on installing the pylons into the upper piece of the secondary hull, and sealing that up, if you can believe that. And then we'll be talking about that. We won't be sealing up right then and there, but that would be the next step for the secondary hull. And then we'll go on to we'll go back to the saucer, and we'll talk a little bit about that, focusing the light on the AB deck so that it hits the Enterprise moniker and its registry. And I'm going to finish the AB deck. I'm going to paint it. It's going to be absolutely finished before it's installed, because it's going to be a lot easier for me to do that than it is to put it on the model and then try to paint it. It'll be a lot easier for me to manage it. And then we're going to go back to nacelles and wiring the nacelles priming them, light blocking them, getting the chiller grills in, and that should take us to Christmas. I don't know. I don't know how many segments I'm going to do on this, but I am going to try to keep them a little shorter so that it's not so much to digest. And then, talk about, obviously, along the way, what some of the issues are. But there you go. That is update 4 for Build the 1350 Refit from Polar Lights. This is the 1979 movie version, the Refit. And away we go. I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying it. It's gnarly. It's an awful lot of work. It's an awful lot of work. But I don't want to discourage anybody from diving in. I want everybody to dive in. Don't leave this in a box on a shelf. Get it out and build it. You'll be better for it, and it's fun, and it's something you can, if you're able to store some big plastic buckets, you can store it in those and put it on the shelf and do something else if it's too much for you, right? Sometimes that's what I have to do. I have to move on to something else and then come back so my head doesn't explode. But so far I'm okay. I'm doing okay. Anyway, thanks a lot. As always, I wish all of you, please be well, be safe, build something, and I'll see you next time. Take care, everybody.